Thank you very much and very good afternoon. I know by the time we finish this conference, you will be sick of this berry puns. First of all, Berries Australia, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful conference where all of us can come together, talk about milestones, talk about perspectives, talk about issues, talk about challenges, talk about solutions. Also, thank you, my audience, who are going to spend next 15 to 20 minutes with me. My name is Sachin, and I'm the National Program Manager for the only Australian ethical sourcing training and certification program for horticulture. That's about me. Now about you. How many of us are growers here? Fair few, great. As you're going to spend next 15 to 20 minutes with me this afternoon, we are going to focus on only 3 important points for you to think about, to take action on. What are those 3 important points? Number 1, the evolving definition of sustainability. The current ethical sourcing framework in Australia and the evolving expectations of retailers as well as consumers. And an ethical sourcing or social compliance program like Fair Farms, is it just another compliance burden or an important and necessary risk mitigation strategy? Starting with the evolving definition of sustainability, and we'll discuss later why we are talking about sustainability in this space. The stereotypical way that concept of sustainability is applied had changed over the years. It is no longer limited to the environment or consumers only. The concept of sustainability or the sustainable food production now includes people. People who grow food, people who harvest food, and people who process food. As we have heard this morning in different sessions about CSR, ESG, Modern Slavery Act, now all these points are a part of the sustainability framework. Now, if we narrow down that broader sustainability framework to horticulture, and we talked about this morning as well, this sustainability framework is available on Hort Innovation website. There is a specific goal P4.2, that specifically talks about the fair and ethical workplace practices. Now, why are we talking about sustainability? Like other industries, berry growers are on the forefront of sustainable food production. You're already working on that framework. And as an industry, if we haven't considered fair and ethical workplace practices as a part of that framework, now is the time. We must consider those fair and ethical workplace practices. I'm not only talking about Fair Farms program, but I'm talking about the systems in general that relate to the fair and ethical workplace practices. The concept of sustainability is no longer just clean and green production. It's now clean, green, and not mean as well. That's about the changing concept of sustainability. Let's move on to the next part, the second important part, the evolving expectations of retailers and consumers. Starting with retailers, the expectation of retailers in this particular space is primarily driven by Modern Slavery Act. We talked about that this morning in the Woolworths session. Modern Slavery Act 2018 that came into force on 1st of January 2019 specifically talks about a requirement that entities in Australia with annual consolidated revenue of more than $100 million need to include in their modern slavery statements the risks of modern slavery, and that's not only for their operations, the modern slavery risks for the entire chain of custody. And they also need to include actions to mitigate those risks. We are a part of that supply chain. It's not just the responsibility of one entity, it is a shared responsibility. It is the responsibility of growers, the supply chain, retailers, as well as a program like Fair Farms play a big role. Now, if we go back to modern slavery statements on the government website that are publicly available, there are approximately 3,862 mandatory modern slavery statements on that website, and 537 voluntary ones. Now, out of those 3,862, 384 companies are associated with food and agriculture. And out of those 537, there are 44 companies associated with food and agriculture. So now those statements include modern slavery risks for those companies as well as for us, and that Modern Slavery Act is relevant for us. Now, as a part of the risk mitigation strategy, we'll have a look at how different modern slavery statements look like. Different companies have different ways to mitigate those modern slavery risks. Some companies specifically mention programs like Fair Farms, but I would like to make it clear, a program like Fair Farms does not only cover modern slavery, it goes beyond that. Fair Farms is about modern slavery risks. Fair Farms is about fair work regulations. Fair Farms is also about work health and safety regulations. So, as you can see on these modern slavery statements, this is relevant for you as well as a grower. This is relevant to you as a supply chain partner. So, if you haven't already thought about this for your business as a grower or supply chain partner, it is very important to embrace that change. We live in such a fast-paced world, particularly in this context. If we do not change, we go backwards. Talking about consumers. Now, as you know, consumer expectations are evolving. Consumers are expecting more in terms of where the food is coming from, how the food is produced, whether the food is coming from places where there are fair and ethical workplace practices. The consumer expectations, in my opinion, are divided in two different types. First expectation is about expectations from retailers about the transparency of the information that the food is coming from fair and ethical farms. And the second one is there are some consumers who are ready to pay more if they have that transparency about the fair and ethical workplace practices in the supply chain. There are a number of surveys that have been done in this particular space. Now, I'll ask a question on this platform: is there a need for another label that highlights the success of people who have embraced these programs and are part of this framework? Now, question to all of you as growers and supply chain partners. We talked about changes happening, sustainability, retailers, consumers. Are we actually ready for this change? We are 12,000 farms nationally. We employ more than 70,000 workers with $13.2 billion turnover. Are we ready for this ethical sourcing framework of tomorrow? Ethical sourcing is one of the most fundamental risks that growers as well as supply chain faces. Not changing is not an option. Do we want to keep going like this or do something about it? And if we are going to do something about it, that needs to be done now. The change is already happening. That's about our second point. Third point that we always get when we talk about Fair Farms program are just another certification program. Are we just another certification program, or an important and necessary risk mitigation strategy for you as a grower, for you as a supply chain partner, for us as an industry?
Farming is in my blood, has been for generations. My dad taught me everything I know, and his dad taught him, and now it's my turn. Because I want to show the next generation how to do it right, for today and tomorrow, I'm registering to become a Fair Farm. Fair Farms has been created by us, for us, and it gives growers like me the training I need to fully understand my obligations as an employer, because it matters to me that our workers are happy and feel safe on the job. Fair Farms gives certification to show the industry and you that I'm an ethical employer. Developed by Growcom and supported by the Australian Government and industry peak body, AusVeg, Fair Farms is the industry taking action and showing that we care. Because I think that matters to you when you choose to buy these. Fair Farms will reward growers who are doing the right thing by making it easier to get produce from my family to yours. For more information, go to fairfarms.com.au.
Now, just a little bit about Fair Farms. We have Fair Farms team here today, so I'll introduce them to you as well. As Rachel mentioned, we started in 2019 after the Harvest Trail inquiry. We are the only Australian ethical sourcing or social compliance training and certification program specifically designed for the horticulture industry by the horticulture industry. It is developed and delivered by Growcom, which is the peak industry body in Queensland for horticulture, funded by the Federal Department of Agriculture and supported by national peak industry bodies like NFF, FMA, and AusVeg. The Fair Farms program has progressed since 2019. We now have more than 350 growers who have embraced the program for different reasons. The program has different standards, rules, and guides. We developed that in consultation with the industry. The Fair Farms program is accepted by almost all major retailers, including Woolworths, Coles, Aldi, and Metcash. We are the scheme owner, so we don't audit for the Fair Farm certification. We have third-party auditing bodies who offer the audit services to have that third-party verification of systems that you have in place.
Thank you for choosing the Australian option for showing you're doing the right thing by your workers, and that in the end will save you time and money. Fair Farms was developed by Growcom, an Aussie not-for-profit with more than 90 years in the horticulture industry. Being Fair Farm certified means you're committed to fair and responsible employment practices, and you're proud to demonstrate that to industry, as well as your customers, staff, and community. Becoming Fair Farm certified is a straightforward 6-step process. The first few steps are online, and then the final steps take place on your property. Certification can generally be achieved within a few months, depending on how much effort you can put in and when your harvest period is. Here's how to get started. The first step is to go online and have a look through the standard. They're the rules that you'll need to follow to be a fair farmer. Next, you enter your details online and pay the fee. Make sure you tick the Share Info box. to register your buyers and other agencies' details that you want to share your Fair Farms data with. If they change in the future, you can always modify this on your My Fair Farms portal. It's your way of being transparent and proudly sharing the progress you're actively taking to be a certified ethical supplier. Also, when registering, you will need to identify the controlled sites on your property. That's where the auditor can tour and observe workers under your management. Step 3. Take some time to complete the online self-assessment, or OSA as we like to call it. It's like a health check for your business employment practices. All of the information you include is confidential, and it's important to be honest. This is your chance to see where your business can improve. You'll need to complete the OSA every 12 months, and it takes around 1 to 2 hours. We give you a full report from your OSA. Step 4. If training is recommended, you can do it online through e-learning, by phone, or face-to-face training sessions. You have the freedom to choose which type of training suits your learning style and budget. It will help you understand and guide you to make improvements to your employment practices. You'll need to do at least 2 hours of training each year to make sure you stay up to date with legislation and industry developments. Now you're ready for audit. We'll provide the details of approved audit companies so you can schedule your Fair Farms audit. Step 5 is when you arrange for an auditor to visit your property. Auditors are an independent third-party check of everything you've put in place to meet the standard. It's important to remember that the audit must take place during your peak season to allow the specialised auditor the opportunity to interview workers and see firsthand your production in full swing. Step 6 is certification. Once you receive your audit report and closed out your findings, your audit results will determine the frequency of your recertification cycle. This can vary from 1 to 3 years. Congratulations, you are now Fair Farms certified, and you'll be seen as an employer of choice, doing the right thing by your workers and the whole horticulture industry. Thank you for choosing the Aussie-made solution developed by industry for industry. Growcom is your organisation promoting ethical and fair employment practices in Australian horticulture.
Different growers take the certification pathway for different reasons, particularly in the social compliance or ethical sourcing framework. We'll quickly go through a few examples. Neriganda berries are certified with Fair Farms program because it is relevant for horticulture. Unlike other ethical sourcing programs, we are relevant for horticulture. If you look at our online self-assessment, audit reports, the way audits are conducted, that is specifically designed for horticulture. A few other examples, Black River Produce are certified under Fair Farms program to ensure the safety of their people. So as I said, work health and safety is one of the important modules of the Fair Farms standard. Another example is the Donovan Family Trust, who are certified with the Fair Farms program to get things right for their modern slavery risks, to get things right for their workplace relations regulations risks, to get things right for their work health and safety risks. Another example is Taylor Family Trust, Family Produce, who chose Fair Farms for the relevant learning resources. Now, this particular ELMS portal, which has 13 comprehensive modules, sets us apart as a scheme. We provide e-learning as well as face-to-face training for growers, particularly for those 13 different modules that cover your fair work regulations and work health and safety regulations. Another one is Mulgawi salads. They are certified with Fair Farms because it puts their quality system in discipline. It gives them a clear checklist to comply with those regulations that are changing all the times. Now, 10 quick points, why Fair Farms? As I said, 3 different risks, 3 fundamental risks for us as growers of supply chain. Number 1, modern slavery. Number 2, workplace relations regulations. Number 3, work health and safety. Relevant program for horticulture sector. We have ongoing technical support. For example, we recently had changes in pieceworks. We organize webinars and workshops to make sure that those changes are understood, and if growers have any issues, they can talk to us directly. Comprehensive training modules. It is accepted by major retailers, supported by Federal Department of Agriculture and other national peak industry bodies, and we are based here in Brisbane. So if you have any issues, concerns, or training requirements, you can pick up the phone and talk to us, the Brisbane office. So we today have Desda, our Business Development Officer, Amanda, our Workplace Relations Specialist, and Sam Tui, who is our Communications Officer, if you want to have a chat with us after this session. As this is a year of conferencing, everyone is conferencing, we have the inaugural Fair Farms Conference on 14th of October at Coffs Harbour. This is to create a platform to specifically talk about modern slavery, fair work, work health and safety regulations, issues, challenges, solutions, milestones, and success stories on this platform. So if you can make it, we'll encourage you to contribute. If you have any suggestions and if you want to hear to a particular speaker or a topic, please give us that feedback. Thank you for listening and have a very good afternoon. Sorry.